Let's see. Is this working? Okay. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Welcome,
it says
welcome. Hello,
we're back
everybody.
and
Hi,
better
please
than ever.
last.
I think we're better than ever.
Oh,
That's the goal.
absolutely.
Yeah, I got
I
better.
am
Oh,
because
good.
I have this.
Oh, nice. Oh, sing.
That's a fun
Oh,
bottle.
sing. It is a fun bottle.
Oh, Justin's mom bought that for us one time.
Is it?
Oh,
Is it
really?
like in a glass
Yeah.
bottle or something?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Nice. Very
It
cool.
is sangria. It is 14%. If you drink
Huh.
2, your face will go numb.
Oh no.
Ask me how I know.
I will drink 2. I will have to try.
We used to get the Red's Wicked Apple Ale back in the day when
Mm.
we were doing the first role playing game that Justin and I ran for a number of years.
Hmm.
And we would all chant 8% when we would drink because they're 8%.
That's awesome.
Woohoo!
8%. That's a fact. Hi, sluts.
Hello.
I do not.
We
I do not have a drink. I didn't grab one. I was rushing, and then the computer was running really slow, of course.
Oh
So,
no.
yeah.
Feel free. We will
Yeah.
pause the podcast for all the viewers.
Oh my gosh.
Do it.
They can.
Just do
I
it.
mean, they can see. Like, I don't know. Well,
It's a great time for them to go get a
It
drink.
is a total
Yeah,
mess back here, though.
exactly.
That's true.
Mhm.
Y'all go get a drink if you're here listening and watching. Because I'm gonna go get one.
Absolutely.
Please ignore the mess back here. I was looking for a specific book in my boxes of books, and so I was like tearing them all, and there's boxes everywhere. Anyway,
Thomas, she has boxes of books.
She does have boxes of books.
Oh man.
That's a lot of books.
My first thought, this might not be a normal thought. My first thought is I want to look through all the boxes.
Oh yeah, that was my first thought too. I want to know what books are in them. Since we redecorated or moved our furniture around when Greg moved in, the kitchen, the
you have a new
role-playing
room.
area looks like a wizard's shop. It's exactly what I wanted for the D&D room, but now it's in the dining area. So it's just a bunch of shelves with all of our like art stuff and knickknacks and role-playing things.
Oh, I like it.
Nice.
Spider-Man.
That's gonna be the best drink here, though. Like every time.
It's cold brew that I made myself, so it's pretty good.
Wow. So late in the day?
Homemade
Oh yeah.
cold brew.
Yeah. That's intense.
This is when it's needed. Otherwise I'd be asleep. I would nap and then stay up to midnight, like or well, I already kind of stay up to
midnight. That's always my problem. Maybe I should also have a little bit of coffee in the evening, because after like I'll get home, we'll make dinner, eat dinner, and then I'm like, I just want to go to sleep now. I'll be sitting on the couch and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just like, it's a struggle to keep my eyes open.
Oh.
But it's like, 8 o'clock. And I can't just go to bed at 8 o'clock because I'll wake up at like 3 in the morning, like, I'm ready to go.
Do you make a new dinner like every day?
No, definitely not.
Oh, okay.
No, we actually only cook like maybe twice a week.
Oh, okay.
And then
yeah, I was like
is whatever. I say make dinner and I mean that very loosely, like microwave dinner or whatever.
Oh, okay.
No, I get home and I'm like, I don't want to make dinner.
Yeah, it's very much like make something on Sunday and then hope that it lasts until Thursday.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. A lot of times, so we have a Costco membership, and Costco has a lot of like sort of pre-made things in their refrigerated section that you can then just like throw in the oven. And so we'll try to like buy one of those whenever we go to Costco, so that can last the two of us like 5 days or something like that.
Nice.
And then if we like cook one other thing, then we're pretty much set. So.
Then you're golden. You're good to go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It works.
What about you, Thomas? Are you one of those people that that cooks every day? I feel like you're not.
No, I am not. I cook very little. In fact, Justin
Mhm.
cooks the majority of the time that cooking happens. And we probably cook like 3 or 4 times a week. But I'm
Wow.
trying to
Nice.
commit to at least once a week. I made chicken and dumplings last week, and we still have a big old like thing of it.
That's awesome.
I'm a pretty good cook, and I am a competent baker. Like I can,
Oh,
I
I
know
can see
enough
that.
about baking to get recipes and like make good product.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a commitment now that Greg's here. Is I want to like cook once a week. So
yeah.
I did it last week. Have to do it this week. I also made a green
Yay.
goddess dressing last week, which was
Oh, those
delicious.
are so good.
It was really
Oh.
good. And I made bagels and lox the other day, which
Oh
is
my
just
gosh, I love
have the
bagels and
things
lox.
and then put them together and eat them.
my gosh.
Yeah, exactly. It's not hard to make. You just have to
Yeah,
have
it's
all the little ingredients.
yeah.
All I'm hearing is the next role-playing game is going to turn into a potluck.
I
Let's
mean,
do it.
we should. Yeah, you were talking today about role playing with Justin. You said you and Kelly want to do like a D&D session to learn how to play D&D.
Yeah. I she has like so it's weird. So she has like her group at NCR, which somehow became like a parallel alternative universe group to my group at Novatech. Cause so I'm just like talking with her and she's like, yeah, they keep trying to get me into role playing because they love role playing and they love horror movies like Tremors. So they always want me to watch like horror movies with
Oh
them.
my
And
gosh, that's
they
hilarious.
and
Nice. That's the next monster for Justin, by the way. The thing that him and I are doing. That's the next thing he's gonna fight.
Yes.
what?
Yeah.
Nice,
I love it.
nice.
Such a good
A-
one.
And her alternative universe group is so similar to my group at Novatech that so right now they're in Colorado and guess where they are like right now in Colorado related to Stephen King.
Oh.
Boulder?
Boulder, I'm assuming, or
Stanley Hotel.
oh.
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 Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we just talked like a couple hours ago, and she's like, "Guess where I'm going? Going to the Stanley Hotel." I'm like, "Can you
That's
take
awesome.
footage? Can you find the Stephen King room?" You know,
Is
so
did she just go with them like on a trip, or is it a work thing and they all happen to be there?
a bit of both, a bit
Oh,
of
okay.
both. Yeah. So,
That's cool.
hmm
That's really cool. I want to go back to Colorado
so
so badly. I like dream of Colorado. I think maybe I want to
yeah,
retire there one day.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you're into like hiking and biking outdoors, it's like a playground for you.
Yeah.
That and
Not much of the biking, but definitely hiking for sure.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
You'd probably really like Utah as well then.
Yep. I love all those places. We're going to Santa Fe in October for a wedding.
Hmm.
And we're gonna do some hiking out there too, and I'm so excited. Can't wait. New Mexico. It's like maybe
Oh,
45 minutes or so from Albuquerque.
yeah.
You have to actually fly into Albuquerque and then drive to Santa Fe if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah. But
I
it's
when I
surrounded by mountains, so
oh
there's
nice.
like tons of hiking.
Um I hiked in New Mexico and they have one national park, maybe. And so I went to that, and they've got these cactuses that are like 30 feet tall, which is
Hmm.
That's
wild.
crazy.
Yeah.
I
At Santa
chased
Fe. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I
You
chased a
chased?
Gila monster,
Hell yeah.
and
That's
then it started
awesome.
chasing me.
Of course. I was
Oh
about to say,
no.
was it not chasing you? Because
It got irritated. I just wanted to get closer for like good pictures to this wild
it
venomous
was like,
animal.
nah, get on out of here.
To this wild venomous animal.
You can find George R. R. Martin's house there. And also, I believe he set up a wolf sanctuary there because I remember going to like a wolf
Oh,
sanctuary in that area, and they were
okay.
like, "Oh yeah, George R. R. Martin donated like $500,000 to protect the wolves here." So that might be of
Interesting.
interest.
Yeah, I don't know what all we're. I mean, obviously we have the wedding.
Mhm.
But I know we're gonna go hiking. Sorry, excuse me. I know we're gonna go hiking, but other than that, I'm not sure what else we're gonna do.
Mm.
Well, I know we'll spend some time in the square, the Santa Fe Square, which is super awesome. We used to go a ton,
Oh.
like maybe we used to go either like in July or like in November, December growing up.
Yeah.
But I have not been back in a while. So,
Oh.
and my parents usually try to go like once a year or something. Um,
What's in
it's a
this
great
square?
place. It's just a really cute little square that's super walkable, tons of little shops. Every year they have the Spanish market as well, which is I think in July.
Oh.
And so it's just a bunch of local artisans that sell their like handmade jewelry and artwork and all this stuff. And you can buy a lot of really awesome silver jewelry or like
Oh.
goods and like
Yeah.
it's so awesome. It's super cool.
That sounds really
You can
neat.
stay
Yeah.
you can
I
stay
bet
in
the
the
food is
area.
awesome
It's
too.
oh my gosh, the food is like one of my favorite things. Yeah, it's great. I'm
Oh,
so
that's
excited.
awesome.
hmm
Huh.
And it smells really good there because of the it's like I think it's called I think it's a juniper tree, like pinon wood is what it's called, and it smells like that's just what Santa Fe smells like. It smells so good.
Huh.
Um, yeah, it's a fun place. It's cool.
Oh man. Yeah, we'll have to take another trip out there because that sounds cool, and I didn't even know that was out there.
Yeah, I don't think I've never been anywhere else in New Mexico,
Mhm.
and I don't think I've ever. Well, so you always have to fly, at least if you're going to like a main airport, you have to fly into Albuquerque. Um, I don't know that I've ever actually really seen Albuquerque itself,
Oh,
because
really?
I've only ever
You
gone
just
for
fly
Santa Fe.
in and leave.
Just fly in and then immediately leave. Yeah. It's kind of like I've never really been to Orlando, but I've been to Disney World a bunch of different times. I couldn't tell. I
Oh.
like if you showed me Orlando, I would be like, yeah, I didn't know that's what it looked like. Anyway, yeah.
Interesting. Did you ever do I want to say it's the San Antonio Riverwalk?
I love the Riverwalk. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It wasn't that amazing?
I have family in San Antonio. Well, some family still left in San Antonio, but we would go there all the time too. Um, because that's where my grandparents are from. And it's an awesome place. Love
Yeah.
San Antonio. hmm
Yeah. I loved the Riverwalk, and then I feel like I saw the Alamo and then did the Riverwalk, but I may totally be remembering that.
Yeah,
Are
no,
they in
you
the same?
you probably did because you
Okay.
can. There's a certain point where you can go up off of the Riverwalk, and then the Alamo is not too far from it at all.
Okay.
It's just
Okay.
like walking. It's walking distance from it.
Because I spent like a month in Texas, but it kind of all blurs together.
Blurs together.
So
Yeah,
like I might
yeah. No,
say
you're
some things that are
correct.
wrong. Okay.
You are correct. And it's also funny because like right across the street from the Alamo is all of that like Ripley's Believe It or Not like touristy
Oh,
stuff. It's like
yes.
it's kind
I
of
love
interesting.
those. I
It's like
love
here's
those.
this historical like monument basically that's super awesome,
Yeah.
looks so cool, and then you've got right across the street like
This
throwing
affront.
distance this other like crazy tourist stuff. Yeah. It's just kind of jarring almost.
Thomas, have
Like
you ever been to
yeah.
a Ripley's?
I have. I've only ever been like up and down the East Coast.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to think of where it was.
Yeah, I know there's a bunch. I think I've only ever been in one, maybe, but I could not for the life of me tell you where that was.
Maybe Tennessee?
Yeah, I'm thinking like, was it Pigeon Forge? Is
Pigeon
that
Oh,
right?
Forge.
Yeah.
May. Yeah, I've never
Pigeon
been to
Forge.
Pigeon
Yep.
Forge, so
Yep.
I know
So yeah, that.
whatever I went to was like a long time ago. So that's why I
Yeah.
don't remember even what city it was in. Maybe it was San Antonio. I don't know. Yeah.
Stuff like
I was
that
a gay
is
boy in a Southern Baptist crew, so like it was, wasn't excited to be there.
Yeah. Stuff like the weird tourist stuff like Ripley's is like right up my alley, because even if it's like janky, then it's like funny because it's janky. So
Yeah.
I still love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Curse store in Little Five Points.
I
yeah, that
love
place
the
is
Curse
cool.
store in Little Five Points.
There is a store. Well, there's probably more than one, but there's one in particular that I know that is probably a little bit more legit than maybe some other ones. But in New Orleans, in the French Quarter, there is a voodoo shop, and there are literally signs that are like, "Do not touch this if you don't know anything about voodoo." You're like, oh my gosh! It's actually really, really cool though. It's a cool shop.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
How did I not know about this?
I'll have to look it up because there's probably way more than one.
Oh man.
I'll have to look up what it's called. But every time I like go to New Orleans, I love to go into that shop because it's just really interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm also like afraid of being cursed, so I'm like walking around like I don't know anything about voodoo. I'm not even totally sure it's real, but I'm not gonna question them when they have signs up, you know.
I don't want to end up like David Bradley. No.
Yeah, seriously though. That's true.
We should ask him if he's ever been to like Louisiana.
David, did you grow up here and did you wander into a voodoo shop as a kid? Because I'm pretty sure you're cursed.
100%.
Have you guys ever known people besides like other examples of that guy who just like attracts certain kind of behavior or seem to have like luck skewed in some way?
I don't know.
Mm-mm.
I don't know that I've ever really known anybody else like David who just seems to be perpetually
in peril.
Yeah.
I think it's just David.
I had a friend when I worked at Starbucks the first time, you know, in my early 20s. And it was the first time we were going to hang out. We were going to the bar right across from our apartment at the Starbucks we worked at. It was the first time we were hanging out and we're driving there. And she's like, weird things always happen to me. Something weird's going to happen. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, it's always me. Like, there's going to be like some homeless person that comes up and like, you know, starts harassing me. Like, it's whenever I go out, it's always something. And I was like, oh, you're with me. I'll like magically balance the situation. Don't worry about it. Starbucks, gay. And we go there and walk in. And right before we walk in, and there's like, the outside porch area, and that's where the door in is because it's like right inside that like closed off area, so it has like a foyer. I'm about to reach for the handle and some like, you know, 5 foot tall, 5 foot wide lesbian walks out and it's just like, I need a hug, and hugs her. And I'm looking at her like over her shoulder, like, you know, like the back of the stranger's head and my friend, and she's like, I told you.
Okay. So now that you're saying that, I will say that is making me think of my grandma. So she's not like cursed like David Bradley, but it's just same thing where she goes out in public. She is like a magnet for just like a weird thing, not bad things, just like weird people and weird things to occur around her. And my aunt has a whole bunch of stories, and the only two I can really think of right now is just like this drunk dude. I don't even know where they were, but this drunk guy came up to her in the parking lot and he was just like singing "You Are My Sunshine" to her. He wasn't like threatening in any way, but he just was drunk and was besides that, because that's you don't know what his intention is, but just all of a sudden like came up to her and started singing "You Are My Sunshine." Weird stuff like that. The one that I always think of though is when her and my aunt were walking into a Walmart, and this car like pulls up at the front, and this guy stops and like puts it in park, and he's like, oh my gosh, help me, my wife is having a baby. And they like were not making it to the hospital at all, and she's in the front seat like literally giving birth. They're like, please help us.
That's mad.
Oh my gosh.
stuff like that. Just weird stuff, not bad stuff like people dying and houses being burned down and whatever. Just
Yeah, not like David.
Not like that, but you describing your friend made me think of my grandma because
I think there are like people in the world that maybe it's the whole secret. You give energy, you get it back or something. But like,
yeah.
I feel like I've met a few people that's like it's always you, isn't it? And it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely believe in that, like how people have like a vibe that they put out
totally.
and they attract similar people to them. Like if you're a positive person, you attract positive people. If you're a negative person, you attract like criminals. The one thing that I've noticed is if I'm just out by myself, nobody talks to me. Like strangers, people I don't know, no one talks to me.
Yeah.
If Kelly's just out by herself, no one talks to her just randomly. But if we're together in a public area, without fail, a stranger will just strike up a conversation with us out of the blue for no reason. And it's happened literally about 55 times now. So
is it when you're wearing the pineapple shirt?
No. It has
or the
nothing.
Totoro shirt.
Yeah. Now if I wear certain shirts, I will get a lot of comments on it. Like I wore the Totoro shirt to the Renaissance Fair and I had, no joke, 20 people comment on it.
That's not surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But
it's definitely a standout shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, I even had like an older gentleman pull me to the side while I was looking at like medieval swords and he was like, "Hey brother, glad to see that some people are confident enough to wear stuff like this."
That's awesome though. I love it.
Yeah. He thought like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Solidarity.
Yeah. So
that's really funny though that if you guys are together. We like I think alone or together doesn't really matter. Like Bo and I don't interact with anybody if we're on public.
Really?
People stop Justin and I on the street and they're like, "Y'all look like twins." And I always want to say to them terrible things about how yes, indeed, we are sex twins. Like,
that's right. I forgot you said that people more than once have said, are you guys brothers or whatever?
Like we're approaching double digits. We don't go out that often.
That's amazing.
It's like we were at the Shaky Knees Music Festival and we're watching the Killers and a drunk guy dressed up as Waldo just like walks up to us out of the blue and he was like, yeah, and he was like, "Can I join your group?" And we were like, "No."
Please don't.
The best response. No.
That's amazing.
Strange human.
We were so uncomfortable because he was just dressed like Waldo and like just blasted out of his mind.
Oh my
Man,
gosh,
that's some Stephen King shit right there.
Oh yeah.
It really was.
Totally.
I don't want to be part of that book.
That actually makes me think of two encounters. So I was saying earlier, either alone or together, we don't usually have people like approaching us. But I am thinking of two separate instances where Bo was, well, one of them he was technically not by himself, but he wasn't even out in public. He was literally at home. But okay, so when we used to live in Nashville, he lived with some guys that he went to college with, and so him and one of his roommates were literally sitting at home, like playing video games, and they get a knock on the door, and this clearly a prostitute walks. I don't mean like she like introduces herself. Like she walks in, like no, and it's like, "Come on in, please." And basically, and they're both looking at each other like, "What the fuck?" And they're like, "I'm pretty sure you have the wrong place." And she was like, "Is this not whatever address?" And they were like, "Yeah, no, this is that's the right address, but we did not call you." And she kept saying like, "But this is like," and they're like, "Nope, you got the right address, but at the same time, you don't have the right address because nobody called for you." And basically so she finally leaves, but basically they were thinking that maybe somebody like ordered a prostitute or whatever, but gave her the wrong address on purpose to like, I mean, I don't know, in case it was like some police thing or I don't know. It was so weird though, because
That is so weird. I love that.
she had their apartment number and all that stuff, and it was
It's hard to make a prostitute leave without
wild.
giving them money too.
I know,
so-
they were like, promise.
Oh,
What did the address you have? Yeah, that's this apartment, but we did not. Like,
was
they were like,
she
please
wearing
leave.
a trench coat and not much else?
No, I don't.
Oh.
Well, I don't know what she was wearing, and at this point, Bo probably wouldn't remember either. But I mean, it was clearly like she was dressed very much like a prostitute would, like probably heels and like little clothing, or skimpy clothing is my guess. I don't know.
In my head, I don't know why, it's just like a beige trench coat and not much else.
Just
Beige
like
trench coat,
underneath.
red
It's amazing.
lingerie.
And it's just like,
Yeah, it was crazy though.
I love that story. What's
Yeah.
number 2?
Okay, so number 2, he actually was out in public and he was by himself. But he was just getting gas. That's it. Like nowhere weird. Just getting gas, and this lady pulls up to the pump next to him. And I think she comes up to him and she was like, "You look like Johnny Depp." Which, first off, he doesn't look anything like Johnny Depp.
What?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
And he was just like,
No.
"Okay, thanks." And she was like, I think she said something like, "Johnny Depp is super hot and I would lick his asshole." And he was like, "Okay," basically like implying like, Johnny Depp, I find Johnny Depp as hot. To me, you look like Johnny Depp, so I would lick your asshole.
Yeah, that's
Was
the
it the-
implication of that.
Was it the female version of Nick Day?
That's amazing. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if he has. I think he's an only child. I don't think he has any siblings. But anyway,
How do
that's the
we
other story.
how do we get her with Nick Day?
I don't know. I don't even remember how it like. I think he was just like, "All right, thanks, great," and then she just like got her gas and left or something. I don't know. I don't remember even how it ended after that. But this is also like midday, by the way. This is not at night.
Wonderful.
The only person he looks like is Darian King from Mute Math to me.
Yeah. When you mentioned it the other day, I was like, "Ooh, you're right." I don't know why
You
I've never
have
really
to-
like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that he would take that as a compliment. I should tell him
Yeah.
that you think that.
Because when I saw Darian King from Mute Math, I was like, wait a minute, this guy looks familiar.
Hold on.
Wait a second.
I feel like though, if they both were clean shaven, probably not. I mean, I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, I haven't actually seen Bo clean shaven since we were freshmen in college. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't actually know what he looks like. Because I only picture it like 18-year-old Bo.
Yeah, I was about to say, wait, freshman in college.
Not almost 32-year-old Bo.
Yeah, that's
Or
gotta be
maybe
like,
he was 19. He was probably 19, but still.
yeah, that'd be like over a decade ago.
Yeah, definitely.
He looks good with the beard.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I always tell him if he wants to shave it, don't like not shave it on my account. So that's why I've always kept it. Anyway.
I think it's time to discuss Boogeyman.
A boogeyman.
Oh my god. So frightening. What did you guys think?
I loved it. It was scary. It was great. I was not. Sorry, I'm like already skipping right to the ending here. But I was not at all expecting the doctor to be I was like, what? It totally took me off guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Whiplash for me too. But I really enjoyed it. The
Yeah.
the lead up and his whole like when he randomly is like I can't remember if he asks what's in like a closet in the room. There's like a
Hmm.
closed door and
Yeah.
he's like, "What's in there?" And you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
"Why is that important? Why are you asking that?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
It scared me though, because so he starts talking about like what happened, right? And he's barely even talking about, I think he's just talking about how him and his ex-wife like met or whatever. He's barely even started in the story, and he just like stops and he's like, that closet, what's in that closet? It's like, can you open it? I need to know what's in that closet, and and it just like scared me so bad thinking about, oh my gosh, this is the boogeyman. He's coming after him, or he thinks it is. Obviously, there's no necessarily indication that he's there, but yeah, the fact that it's just always on his mind, that any
Hmm.
closet anywhere, he's just automatically thinking.
Yeah. What what struck me is I believe it was probably written before he even put out Carrie. So this is when he was just sending the short stories to like the smut magazines. And he he had such a great understanding of what pulls you in as a reader, even with those early writings, because I think second or third paragraph you're already like sucked into the story because he says something along the lines of, he's talking to the shrink and he's like, I murdered my 3 children. And
Yeah,
within the first couple paragraphs, you're just sucked into the story like, wow, this guy murdered his children. I want to know more. Why
right,
is he admitting this?
right.
And for King to have that presence of mind, even at such a young age, to be able to pull you into the story and then keep that momentum going for the whole story, I just thought was just expertly done.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely, I remember thinking that as well, because it definitely pulled me in
Hmm.
quickly. I mean, I was already interested in the story anyway, just before, like, I wanted to read it anyway, but kind of him saying, "Well, I murdered my 3 children." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Hold on, I'm thinking that the boogeyman, right? It's called
Hmm.
the boogeyman. I'm thinking that the boogeyman probably killed them." Uh, and you just read that and you're like, "Hold on." And then I have all these things. I remember having all these things just like going around my mind, like, how would that happen? Did he kill them to save them from the boogeyman? And he thought that a boogeyman was, I
Huh.
don't know. Yeah. But
Interesting.
um but yeah, that caught me immediately as well. Pulled me in.
I like
And
that, like pulled you in because that's kind of the exact feeling you get when you first start reading that story and then keep going, like you said, with the momentum building. So it
mhm.
literally feels like you're like leaning into somebody telling you the story.
Yeah,
Like
Mhm.
each
yeah,
sentence, like you're waiting for the next thing that happens. And I think the size of the story, like knowing that it's like that length adds to that too. Like it's a
Yeah.
good framework for that like building setting.
yep.
Yeah, definitely.
And me and Thomas were talking about how we thought it was so awesome when he says something to the effect of, I want to go to prison because in prison there's no closets.
Oh
Oh yeah, you can
yeah, such
see,
a
and like
creepy
you can see
sentence.
inside all of the
Oh
rooms, but there are
man,
no like, yeah. Oh,
that
you're
was
right.
such a good line. That was such a
That
good
was
line
great.
because like he says so much with just those few sentences where you're like, this guy literally would rather be in prison than be like
Right.
out in the free world just because there's closets. And you're
Right.
like, wow, that was just excellent writing.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It was also really interesting that the main character of the story was what would typically be seen now that we've read some of Stephen King's later stuff is like a villainous side character. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he
Mm-hmm.
is like the racist asshole who usually stirs up
Yeah.
trouble in Stephen King books. And it was really
Yeah.
interesting to see that character idea in Stephen King's head be used in a different way to tell a like to put the perspective of the story. And he does that too in other things, where he'll bounce around to a side character, introduce them, and immediately kill them to kind of let you know like how the horror's manifesting.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see that bully, like a racist Stephen King trope character be the
Yes.
center of attention for this
Absolutely.
period.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm so glad we like invited Trina to like the group and
Yeah.
she read it and then she could meet with us because when we all met together, I was like, Trina, did you think the main character was like super racist? And she's like, it was the 70s. Pretty much everyone was like that. I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
That's kind of how I
Whoa.
felt. I had a feeling that a bit of it was that Stephen King was making this character be this kind of person on purpose and not purely just because, well, this is how it was in the 70s.
Yeah.
But also a mix of just like that's how it was.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
purely just like, well, this is how a lot of like not only did he feel very racist, but he felt very sexist too, because it was very
Hmm.
like uh I don't remember even specific lines, but just the way he
Hmm.
talked about like his wife, um and just felt very old
Hmm.
fashioned as well to me. And so I was thinking like, well, it is the 70s when this was written, so that makes sense, but also I had a feeling
Yeah.
that King did that on like wrote him that way on purpose as well,
Huh.
cuz he's trying to be this like macho man, or like, no, the
Yeah.
children can't, like, they have to be in their own room, cuz
Yeah.
if you or you like gotta let them just cry it out, because if you go comfort them every time, they'll be dependent on, I don't know, like those sort of antiquated ideas about like child rearing and parenting. And
Yeah.
like they'll be a spoiled brat if you go comfort them every time they're crying in their crib at night. Like, how did those two things meet in the middle? But
Huh.
um I don't know, yeah, so I felt like it was a little bit of a mix of both. So Trina saying that makes me laugh because that also makes sense. Yeah.
What's what's so interesting to me is while I was reading it, I didn't pick up on anything sexist at all. Like when I read through it, I was like,
Yeah.
he's super racist, but I never once like paused and thought like, oh wow, this guy sounds super sexist. So I kind of maybe I would go back and reread it kind of through that lens and see if I pick up on it because honestly, I didn't pick up on that at all, and I wonder if that's just
Yeah.
because like I'm a man versus a woman. And now I'm
Maybe.
kind of curious. Huh.
Might have to go get it. I don't know if maybe there's been an edited version, because I was reading literally the original 70s like version from the original
Yeah.
published Night Shift. So I don't know if there's maybe been a revised version that sort of updated some things, but probably not. It's just a short story. Like, it's not a whole novel that has been rewritten.
Yeah.
I might have to go back
Huh.
and get it and look to find some specific examples, because I remember thinking, it's like, oh my gosh, like,
Really?
if I was basically trying to put myself in his wife's shoes,
Hmm.
and if that were my husband, or if that were Bo, and that was the
Yeah.
way that he tried to parent, or
Right.
tried to treat me, it would be like, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one point where he basically said like, I'd I never hit her, so I gave her that. Like, it's like, no, man,
Ugh.
that's good, but that's the delivery. It's horrible, dude. Like,
Great, if that's the
that's
bar. I
that's the
don't
base.
know.
Yeah, that's the baseline for you. Like, I was a good man. She always had dinner ready, so I never hit her. Like, goddamn, bro.
I'll have to go back and look.
I
'Cause
do.
now I wish I had a specific example, but anyway.
I vaguely remember that and being like, whoa.
Ooh.
But I,
Yikes.
I,
Zoinks.
yeah, I just kind of like chalked it up to like that was more common back in the 70s. That sounds
Yeah,
horrible to
definitely.
say.
Yeah,
No,
and
no,
he's
no.
also
I
But
would.
putting it in a smut magazine. So I think I
Right.
wonder if he kind of
That too.
wanted the reader to put themselves in his place more by making him like
yeah,
the
Right, because most of the
this.
readers were going to be men. Let's be honest, and
Yeah.
it's going to be
probably
hard.
99%.
It's going to be hard to relate to that kind of character if that kind of character is acting like a husband and father in 2023. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I still
So
don't think it was like an example of a good man in the 70s. Like I think it's supposed
Mhm.
to like
I
put
agree.
you in the place but also disconnect you from him at the same
Right.
time.
That's kind of why
Mhm.
I feel like his choice of that kind of character was both intentional but also a product of like the 70s.
Yeah,
Because it was more commonplace, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it was that's how every husband and father acted, and not
yeah,
necessarily that's not even how, like you said, Thomas, like I wouldn't describe him as like even a good one in the 70s, just like
yeah.
uh it was becoming more um it was becoming less common, I guess, but still around, definitely around. Like some
And it would
of
certainly be
his
more evocative for the men reading it, even if they were
right,
thinking about their fathers
right.
Hmm.
too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Hmm.
Because some of it definitely still felt very like 50s to me in the way that he
Yeah, yeah.
uh thought about fatherhood and being a husband. So, but it's the 70s when it was written, so yeah.
Probably my favorite thing about the story is how much of the story that you get is not there in the pages that were written. Like because of those like excellent one-liners, like when he's like, "What's in that closet? I'd rather be in jail because there's only rooms you can see into." When he talks about the like pacing of his family, like you really get the rest of the book that's around this in
Right.
those
Mhm.
short pages. Like you're really in there with very little information, and it was
Yeah,
very
for
well
sure.
done.
I definitely
Hmm.
was seeing a lot more in my mind's eye uh with those lines like that. Especially with I could so him describing like when each of their three children was born and like when the boogeyman first kind of took the first child and the second and the third, and how like I think if I remember correctly, I think by I can't quite remember, but I was definitely seeing kind of how it all like as if I was looking at it from above and seeing all of it play out. Um, even though he didn't describe it, like give you this full history, it was still enough for me to imagine more than what was on the pages,
Hmm.
which was really cool.
Hmm. You said something that was interesting to me before, that you kind of put yourself in the shoes of the female character. Do you find you do that a lot when like reading a story? Like you kind of put yourself in the shoes of the female character versus the male character, or no?
Um, so that's I don't know, I guess it's hard to say. So I was definitely putting myself in his shoes as well, because we're following
Mhm.
him by default, right?
Yeah,
We're not following the wife.
yeah.
But probably because also the way that he would talk about her and the way that he would talk to her or talk about his children and talk about parenting their children sort of put me more I'm more imagined myself in her role, even though we're not even
Hmm.
following her perspective at all,
Yeah, yeah.
because not that I can even relate at all to having kids, but I'm gonna at least have a better idea from a woman's perspective than I would
Yeah.
certainly a man's perspective.
Hmm.
Um, Probably if there is a female, at least like supporting character, I probably by default am putting myself in her shoes, like
Oh,
Franny
interesting.
in The Stand.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, really?
obviously there are points where she is the main character
Yeah.
throughout the book, so you are putting I'm putting myself in her shoes to begin with, but
Huh.
yeah, I mean that's probably true, but I'm also
Yeah.
I do also see it from like the main character's point of view too, or try to at least. I'm usually trying to however whatever book I'm reading, I'm usually trying to actually be the person, but not necessarily imagining myself doing it, just sort of almost like I'm just this passenger in their body,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I I feel like with The Stand and like Franny, I definitely put myself like kind of like in her body and like thought about things like from her perspective and just how horrifying it would be to have like this guy that's like physically disgusting and he's stalking you and he constantly wants your attention and he's
Yeah, it's
constantly
super
bothering
creepy.
you and he's always, he's always like in the back of your head. And yeah, I definitely felt like I was kind of put into her shoes, and then it like amplified the horror because thinking about that from like a female perspective, I was like, oh my god. And the
Yeah,
thought that women in real life have to deal with that was just like, it makes you sick to your stomach. But yeah,
yeah.
I was just curious if you kind of find yourself like putting yourself into the shoes of like the like you said, like the wife in this case, as well as the main character. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess it again. I think it probably depends on what the story is or what's going on. But definitely in
Hmm.
this one, I was sort of trying to see it from both sides. But like I
Hmm.
said, by default, I'm imagining his perspective
Yeah.
as much as I can relate to it. But I'm also imagining as if I was the wife in him talking to me that way, and I was like, that I don't like that.
Yeah.
Like, or
You're like, this
I wouldn't like that if I were
this
in her
guy's
shoes.
disgusting.
I'd be
I'm
like,
about to go all boogeyman on him.
he's gonna see the boogeyman tonight.
Yeah.
He thinks he knows the boogeyman, but we'll see. No,
You
kidding.
go all like misery on him.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it probably depends.
Yeah.
Um,
I wonder if
That's
Stephen King did that on purpose because I feel like I don't usually put myself in a character's shoes or like, oh, I'd do it this way if I was that person. I
yeah.
more look at it from like an observation. Like I try to see if the character's reactions are what I think is right for the character, which is a little
Mm.
bit more disconnected. But in Boogeyman, I did put myself in the wife's shoes. And I wonder
yeah,
if
Really?
he did that on
interesting.
purpose. I wonder, like, I'd
Huh.
like to
Maybe.
read through it again and see if I can identify, like,
Yeah.
how that happened because I don't usually do that. I usually look at things like from the outside, but I remember like
Yeah.
thinking like, oh man, like she's really like the victim in this situation because what the fuck is she gonna do like with
Yeah.
like this? And he's telling her like how to react, and she knows
Right.
that like the kids are in danger.
Right.
Yeah, that's really
Maybe
interesting.
maybe it's because of the way that the story is told. There is, if I'm remembering correctly, there's not any input from her at all. Like not even
Hmm.
her. Is there even any point part where there is like the wife saying something?
I don't
It's
think there's any direct
only
dialogue. It's all
there
the
is
story
no
I
from
don't
you
him.
think
think
so.
yeah, thank you,
Yeah, I
dialogue.
don't think so.
Maybe that's what it is because it's only him giving every single perspective and
Hmm.
any kind of dialogue, which really the only
Hmm.
dialogue is between him and the doctor. But um yeah, I guess the fact that there is zero dialogue from her, so you're really not getting any opinion or thought expressed from
Mm.
her at all. So you're like, well, if how would she feel? What would she be
Yeah.
thinking? Maybe I don't know.
maybe that's part of that like kind of subtle inferred world building that he accomplished in that short story.
Yeah.
That because you know that this guy who's telling the story is a questionable source at best, even though he's the one that saw it all, because it's all coming from him, you're trying to look at it from the perspectives of the other people in the story he's telling,
Right.
because like he's the character that he is.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's true.
that's
very interesting.
fascinating.
I know.
It's like a
Yeah, we hit some
13-page
good stuff.
story, but you can
There's
dissect
so
it so
much,
many
yeah.
ways.
It's interesting. I like hearing how you guys sort of imagine, like while you're reading, Thomas, you said you kind of watch from the outside, whereas pretty much anything that I'm reading, I'm like not necessarily trying to be the character and necessarily, oh, what would I do if they do that? I do kind of also think in the perspective of, well, based on what we know about this character, is this an accurate way that they would react to something or do something? But I'm kind of trying to be them, basically, not put myself in them, but like literally be them and like immerse myself in whatever they're seeing or doing, mostly because that's the best way for my brain to imagine what's actually happening in the story, rather than like try to watch it from a different, like from the outside, basically.
I think it depends too, because I feel like a better
Yeah.
story, not that this, I'm not saying this is bad, but like a story where a character like really engages me and I do lean in like that, I feel like I do kind of go more first person in it, and I try to like
Yeah.
think like what they're feeling and how they're reacting to it, and I'm
Yeah.
less like dungeon master thinking about characters.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I
like that.
focused on like totally different things because like it I feel bad now because Chrissy's like, "Oh, did you pick up on all the sexism from the main character?" And I was like, "He just seemed like a normal guy from the 70s. I'm pretty sure they all were like beating their wives back then."
No, I agree with you. I just it's a product of the 70s, but also
Yeah.
like it is still what it is, you know what I mean?
He he definitely read as like a you know, a typical guy from the 70s.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then I was more like you guys were kind of like putting yourselves into the roles of the characters, and I'm looking at it from like a more analytical point of view, like is the boogeyman real? Is the man that's telling the story actually the boogeyman? Did he actually kill his kids? Is he just blaming it on this creature that doesn't exist?
Like he
Like is
almost
he
had like a
losing?
mental break, and that's just
Exactly.
what his brain told him happened, even though he actually
Exactly.
legitimately murdered them, choked them, smothered them, whatever. Yeah.
Right, right. Like, you
Interesting.
know, he felt like, you know, he doesn't have enough money. He can't put up with like the stress of having all these children. He kills them, which, you know, he kind of alludes to in the first couple paragraphs,
Right.
and then blames it on this monster because he can't deal with it, but then he
Right.
feels like he has to confess it to someone and talk
Right.
about what happens. So I was almost like more looking at it from like this analytical point of view, almost like it's a mystery, like is this person telling the truth or is he in reality the killer? And then what kind of even more so made me think that way is you get to the end of the story and it's like, and then he pulled off the mask and it was the boogeyman. And I'm like, well, if you take it literally, that doesn't make any sense. Because if you're like this, you know, monster from another, you know, from another dimension, this otherworldly horror, you're not gonna like pull off like the mask of the psychologist and be like, ah, I'm a
Yeah, that's
monster,
not like
right?
within the power scope that we learned
Right,
that this
Right.
creature
exactly.
was like capable of.
No, that's true. And it
Yeah.
almost felt very Scooby-Doo to me.
Yes, exactly. Which almost made
Yeah.
me which made me think even more so that maybe he is the killer just because it's so ridiculous, this idea of this like cosmic monster
Yeah.
pulling off like a simple mask and be like, "Oh,
Right.
now I'm gonna get you." You know, it's
Yeah, that
so
Right.
like this therapy session never happened. Like this is that man's
right.
suicide or something. Like
I
Yeah.
right. I do remember thinking like, oh, that seems kind of out of place for the story. like
super out of
pulling
place.
off of a mask.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, maybe like maybe the boogeyman in the story is not so much like an actual supernatural creature of sorts, but more just like the boogeyman is this, you know,
Mm.
I don't know, not a specific thing, but in this guy in this character's life, it's the lack of money or the stresses of
Yeah.
parenthood or this, I don't
Right.
know. Yeah. I
Right.
mean, and it's just it was all too much, like you said, and he was just like, the
Yeah.
only way out is to kill my kids.
Yeah. Because
But he couldn't cope with it.
he's so callous towards like his wife and so callous towards people of other races that, I mean, is it that hard to believe that in the end he's the killer? Because that kind of makes the ending make a whole lot more sense, right? That idea of like, oh, and then he pulled off the mask and he was the monster. Because if you look at it from the perspective of like it's an actual monster that, like you said, like yeah, the Scooby Doo, analogy is very apt, right? It's like,
Right.
and who's the real killer? It seems
Right.
so ridiculous. But if you look at it through the lens of like, oh wait, maybe he's the killer, you're like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. And probably he did
I
that on
almost like that
purpose.
better. That like maybe
Yeah.
that was the
I do
intention.
too.
I
I
feel
do
Because
like that
then
too.
probably
like
was
the
the
thing in the
intention.
closet is like his own dark potential to like
Mm-hmm.
get out of the situation that like he was like, peaking to frustration as
Yeah.
he's the monster in the closet.
Yeah.
Right. I think my
And
brain still wants to, sorry.
oh no, no.
I think my brain still wants to default to it being the supernatural side of things just because
Mm-hmm.
I love the supernatural anyway, because it's something that doesn't exist in this world and won't. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, ooh, it's exciting to like think about or read about something that is not even from this world at all. So anyway,
Mm.
but I do think it makes more sense that it might just be like a
Yeah,
mental break.
because when we met with Trina last week, I think her very first comment was like, "Wow, what a stupid ending." Right, Thomas? Didn't
Yeah.
what wasn't that like her
Yeah,
her
no,
first comment?
I can kind of agree with that, which also kind of goes in line with how a lot of people feel about Stephen King endings anyway.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, I can kind of agree because I remember thinking like, ooh, that's kind of cool that the whole time the doctor is the boogeyman, but as soon as it talks about the mask being pulled off, it's just like,
Yeah.
wait, what? Like
It's like,
it
huh?
actually would have maybe felt a little bit more real to me, or like it was not out of place if he like shape shifted
Yes.
into
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
boogeyman.
exactly.
if it was like
Exactly.
decidedly supernatural like that, I agree.
Right,
Right.
rather than like
Right.
here's this human, literally human mask, and it's almost like how did he not notice the entire time he
Yeah.
was talking
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
it couldn't have looked like a real human face, right?
Makes me
Right.
think of South
Right.
Park and Chef with the Girl Scouts or Chef's
Yeah.
dad. It's like, and that's what I noticed. It was in fact the boogeyman, and he had huge extended claws, and it smelled
Oh
like rot.
no.
Yeah.
How did I
Yeah.
not notice?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I I feel like King is such a good writer that I'm tempted to kind of go towards the concept that there is no boogeyman and it's actually our
Yeah.
narrator who honestly seems like a douche anyway, and maybe that's what he's trying to kind
Right.
of point you towards like, man,
He's
this
not
guy's a
a
real horrible person.
yeah, he's not a totally likable person anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would go so far as to call him like a bad person. He's just a very flawed character.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
And
Stephen King's like way to make blue balls in literature inside of smut magazines. And he was
they're
like,
like,
"Isn't it a great
ah,
story? It really draws you in. Oh, it does all these things, and then this happens." Ah, like,
it's
Take that,
amazing.
you perverts.
yeah.
I love that idea.
This is his way of getting back at all the typical guys.
It's like I see secretly look down on all of you for buying this magazine, but also while you're here, read my story. Okay.
The first 10 pages go real hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best theory of all.
Thanks.
I love
I
that.
like that one.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Also,
Nice.
if I suddenly disappear, my phone's like complaining that it's dying, and it's
I
iPhone, and I
know.
don't have AirPods, so it can't charge and be on this headset at the same time.
Oh no. We were
It was
having
at
such good discussion.
70%. I
Oh
just
no.
wanted a caveat because it
Okay.
said 10% like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, that's
Right.
not
Well,
good.
that makes sense, I guess.
That's not good.
I now have a
It'll be
kitty.
fine.
by
You have a
my
kitty?
side. By my
Can we
side,
see the
yeah.
kitty?
She's on the floor, but maybe I can find you.
Ponyo, come on up. This probably isn't helping.
Join us.
Well, now you're just stuck to me. Okay. Her
Also,
claws get-
I filled a bowl of Cheez-Its to munch on Cheez-Its, and then I realized like that would be the worst thing to do during this. So it's just been
Have
sitting
a
here
loud crunching
staring
thing.
at me as my bad idea.
Does she want to watch Midsummer?
Midsummer. That's how I was reading it in my head. Midsummer.
Midsummer. Me too.
She might.
Hi, Ponyo.
Is she old enough to watch it though?
Oh yes, she is. How old is she this year? Her birthday's in
Oh.
September. She's gonna be 11.
So in cat years, that's like
It's like
66.
yeah. I would say she's old enough.
She can watch
watches-
Midsummer.
She watches a lot of TV actually.
Oh, does she really?
Yeah, and I don't mean like just cat specific. Well, okay. I mean, most of the things that like catch her attention are like birds chirping or whatever. But then if she sees just like stuff moving around on the TV screen, like at a quick pace, I guess it'll catch her attention. It doesn't even have to be an animal. It could just be
Huh.
something that is moving at just the right like pace, and it'll catch her
Yeah.
attention, and she'll just be sitting there watching it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of funny actually.
I
Usually whistles get her attention though.
Oh, I have a hope that her and Newton go on a date, like a cat date one day.
Newton's not a good date.
I would say Ponyo is also definitely not a good date, but she might like an older gentleman. I don't know.
That's possible. Newton's like scared of other animals most of the time as he's gotten older. I think because his eyesight's so bad that they just move faster than he's like
yeah.
capable of processing or moving himself.
Yeah.
So it's
So
like
he's
all an
just naturally
ambient threat.
scared. Aw.
But he's had like companion cats that he's like lived with and has had great relationships with. It's
Oh, that's
either
good.
or.
Yeah, Ponyo has lived with 2 other cats in her life, and one she only merely tolerates because the other one also wants nothing to do with her, so they just sort of
Aw.
exist in it's a perfect relationship.
Mutual cat dislike.
Right. Yeah, as long
Keep
as
our
they are
distance.
like not in the same room and they're avoiding each other, they're great. The other one won't get out of her face, so she hates him. Like just hates him so much. And any other animal she's been around, she's just like, you are my mortal enemy. She is not she's a people cat. She's not she loves people.
We have
Interesting.
a friend of mine named Amy, and she's got a cat named Plop. And Plop is an asshole.
Plop is an
Plop
amazing
is
name.
really fat and white with
Of
like
course.
the black and brown spots.
Yeah.
And we were actually watching Independence Day and The Mummy, and we made it into a drinking game. It was so much fun.
That's amazing.
Not Independence Day. It was The Mummy and Twister. That's what we watched. But
Oh, nice.
so I'm
also
sitting on the
great.
couch next to Amy with another friend next to me, and Amy's husband at the other end of the couch. And Plop is on like the ottoman that's sticking out next to me, and he's just like sitting there, and the whole time just staring at me, and just like hissing a little bit and growling a little bit.
Oh,
And Amy was like, Plop's such an asshole. He doesn't want you to be here, but he's not willing to not be on the couch. And the whole time I was there we watched 2 movies. And
oh no. Oh no. We lost him. Now I just now I just
He
see
ran
Newton.
out of power. Yeah. I
I
think
just see
I think
Newton's face now.
yeah, I guess he just ran out of power and his
I
phone
think he did.
died.
I think it died. He said he
Yeah,
had
he
like
was
7% like a few minutes ago.
7%. Yeah.
Sure, it jumped down immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I've got cat hair all over my face. Oh gosh, but yeah.
Are you allergic?
No, I'm not allergic. It just like clings to my face, and then it gets really like it just anytime I have like fuzz or hair on my face, it just gets really itchy. But I'm not like I don't
Oh.
actually get like hives itchy. It's just like irritates. Like I just have something on my face that I have to get off. So
Oh.
if
I
I'm petting
gotcha.
her, it will like just softly land on my face and it tickles. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah,
I gotcha.
it happens a lot.
Oh. Well, I kept thinking that we could jump into Midsummer at some point, but
I
I think
know.
I think we've gone well past that time at this point.
I think we started about now-ish. An hour ago, I should say.
You were like, we started
Not
now-ish, and I was
like
like,
not literally now, but
I was like, what does that mean?
what?
Does she
That's
interpret
fair.
time in a different way?
Maybe. It'd be interesting to know that I'm sure everybody sees time totally different.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, unfortunately, as much as I wanted to jump into Midsommar, I believe everyone has to eat at this point, and we
I
also
do need
lost a
dinner.
member.
That's
Yeah.
true. We don't have a member. But I would be more than happy next week
Yeah?
to watch it
Rock on,
and
rock
then
on.
discuss Graveyard
Graveyard
Shift.
shift. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Or unless you have a different movie submission, I'm all yours.
No, I'm fine with that.
Yeah?
It doesn't matter to me. But I
Okay.
do think at some point we should watch some Lord of the Rings a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I know
Absolutely.
we had that it was
That
like
idea.
a few weeks ago, and then I
Yes.
think I don't remember what happened, but probably I
Something
got caught out.
happened.
I think probably I got caught at work, and so you guys had your discussed like
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
authors or something.
Yeah. That is what happened because we
Yeah,
had it all planned out. We were gonna do Lord of the Rings, and
right.
then there was some sort of like meltdown with like ConnectWise or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so it
yeah.
didn't happen, unfortunately. But no, that's a great idea.
Oh, he disappeared.
Especially
There he goes.
if we add a drinking element, a sangria element, if you will.
That's great. Take small sips to
Yes.
save yourself.
Yes, seriously.
Yeah.
No, I love that idea. Yeah, let me run it past Thomas
Okay.
when he's present. And
When
yeah,
he's here.
yeah, let's totally do that because I mean, honestly, it'll be like I'm watching the first movie
Right.
for the first time.
Because you don't have you seen all three of them? You just don't remember them? Or
Yeah, I've seen all three and then including
okay.
I think there's ones that go beyond that, like the Desolation of Smog, I believe goes
Oh,
beyond
The
that.
Hobbit. Yeah, when they made the Hobbit
Yeah.
movies too, and
Yeah.
they've split the Hobbit into 3 movies, I think.
Wait,
Pretty sure it's
what?
3 movies.
All from Peter Jackson?
Yes. Yes. But
Wait, so one book is three
yeah.
movies?
Yeah.
Oh.
They probably could have gotten away. Okay, well, to be fair, I think I've only seen the first 2 Hobbit movies.
Hmm.
But I feel like they probably could have gotten away with just 2 Hobbit movies because The Hobbit like a lot happens in The Hobbit.
Hmm.
Or maybe they could have done 3, but been a little bit more true to the story because they added like a whole subplot that is like not in The Hobbit at all.
Oh, really?
They like totally, yeah. Um, if you're just looking at it from a movie perspective,
Yeah.
at least the first two that I've seen they're good movies. But if you also have read The Hobbit and know The Hobbit, it's like, but you didn't stay true to the source material, which
That's okay.
okay
That's
is
interesting.
not, yeah, is not totally weird if you're going from a book to a movie. But the
Mhm.
fact that he stayed pretty dang true with Lord of the Rings,
Yes.
but then took The
Yes.
Hobbit and like went off with it is just kind of strange to
That's out
me.
of character.
It was,
And
yeah, yeah.
I almost wonder if money started to come into the picture.
Maybe that was always kind of what I thought. Not to say that he doesn't follow like the main story, but the fact that they add this entire other subplot is just kind of weird to
Yeah,
me. And felt like it wasn't all that necessary. So I don't know. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well now I'm gonna have to read that as well and then watch all three movies as well. Because
Yeah.
the first one was excellent.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember liking the first one a lot. I don't even
yeah,
remember the second one, but I'm pretty sure I've seen it, and I don't think I ever saw the third one. So,
okay.
yeah.
Because and well, it's funny because I do read books with my cousin as well. We have like a
Oh,
book
yeah,
club
that's right.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he's like, "Oh, did you finish the first Lord of the Rings book?" I was like, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "Are you ready to jump into book 2 and 3?" And I was like,
Like, hold
"Not
on.
yet." Yeah, I was like, "Hold on,
Yeah.
wait."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, the first one's a bit of a grind, isn't it? Like it's very
Yeah,
involved. Like you
it
have to
is.
work to the ending." And I was
Yeah.
like, "You're absolutely right." And he's like, and it's so funny because a lot of people are real fans of it, and almost across the board you hear, "Well, I read the book once and I want to read it again, but I'm putting it off." And you hear
Right.
that over and over, and it's the same exact thing with
That's
him. He's
how
like,
I feel.
"Yeah." And he's like, "I
Yep.
read the first book. It was great, but, he would actually rather read about the lore or watch videos about the lore and kinda have other people tell him about it versus, like, reading the books again."
Right. No, I totally agree. I'll go read the wiki page forever and ever.
Mhm.
Not wiki,
Yep.
not Wikipedia, but
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's
The
called. It's
One
basically like
Ring
the one
or
the
One Wiki
one
to
wiki
rule,
to rule
yeah.
them all. That one.
Yeah,
I'll go read that for hours and just
right.
be fascinated by it. But if you're like, all right, read the first
Yeah,
book, and you're like,
yeah.
it's so good, but it's a commitment.
It's very
It
in-depth.
is work for
Yeah.
sure. And
It
I would
is
love to
for
reread it, but because I haven't read it since
Yep.
college, and at this point, I mean, I know the story obviously, but there's stuff in there that is not in the movie, and I don't even remember what that stuff is. But I do remember reading
Oh,
it, and I was like, oh yeah,
interesting.
this isn't in the movie at all. Like Tom Bombadil,
Yeah,
he's not even
yeah.
in the movies at all. He's not
Yeah,
even a
because
character.
I remember reading through it on my iPad, and I would like run over to your cubicle, and I'd be like, "Do you remember this scene? Do you remember this when like the
Yeah.
Barrow Wraith grabbed them, and the Barrow Wraith like took all their clothes off, and it was trying to
You're
kidnap
like,
them, and it's
vaguely,
like,
not
yeah,
because of the
yeah,
movie, but yeah,
right." And Tom Bombadil is just so mysterious, like what is
yeah.
his origin? Like what is he? Because he almost seems like he's like eternal.
Right. I think that's kind of the idea, if I remember, is that he is sort of, I don't know what he is, but he is,
Yeah,
you do get
yeah.
this idea that he's just otherworldly. I mean, they're kind of all otherworldly, but
Right, right.
but is sort of eternal in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And honestly, even reading through the wiki, I don't know if it's like fully explained. So
Probably not, because anything
yeah.
that's in there is I mean, from Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or the Silmarillion or anything else that Tolkien wrote. And then
Mm.
there's portions in there that will literally say this is not canon, but it is.
Oh.
So like the show that Amazon created that
Mhm.
had the first season, which The Rings of Power, So there's stuff in that show that they are sort of taking liberties with that was never actually written by Tolkien himself. So they have it listed in that wiki, but it'll literally say this is not canon because it wasn't written by Tolkien. So we don't
Oh, okay.
basically Amazon, the writers for that show were just sort of, he never wrote specifically about the history or this piece of history of this character.
Yeah.
So to sort of fit it into what we know about this world, they think this happened. So
Oh, okay. To kind of connect all the pieces.
to connect all the dots and the pieces and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's actually really cool that they're like, this is not canon, but this happens.
I'll check that out as well. I'll
It's
check
really
that
cool.
out as well.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold you too long, but I was just gonna say one last thing. What was fascinating to me is, so I get to the end of the first book, and then
Yeah.
it shows you all the other works that he wrote, and he had like a ton of other works, a ton of other
There's a
stories that
ton of stuff out there
I
that
didn't
I
even
don't even
realize
know
that.
about. Yeah. There's
I
stuff I've
thought,
never
yeah,
even seen.
yeah. I thought it was
Yeah.
just like, Hobbit and then the 3 books and then Silmarillion, and that was it. And it's like,
Yeah,
no,
there's
there was
way
this
more. Yeah.
giant list of other stuff that he had wrote. So that was
Mhm.
fascinating to me. But okay, anyway, that was the last thing I wanted to say. Okay, cool.
All
Have a
right.
great night.
You too.
See ya,
See ya.
Ponyo. Bye.